Hello and welcome to the GEOVISTA. I'm your host Jina Kim. This is our final session forecasting major international issues for 2025. The era of US President Donald Trump has begun once again. Perhaps the most anticipated and closely watched global event this year is his second-term inauguration. As the United States shapes the world order, its policy direction under Trump's leadership will have profound implications for the global economy, diplomacy, and security. In this episode, we take an in-depth look at the composition of Trump's second-term cabinet and the key messages from his inaugural address, analyzing their political and international significance. We begin on the GEOVISTA.
The golden age of America begins right now. We will be the envy of every nation, and we will not allow ourselves to be taken advantage of any longer. During every single day of the Trump administration,
President Donald Trump has declared an even stronger America First policy than 4 years ago. Cabinet appointments are more crucial than ever in achieving his policy goals. U.S. President Donald Trump's second-term cabinet has shown a distinct departure from his first administration right from the start. Just 18 days after the election results were announced, Trump completed his senior appointments, including 15 cabinet secretaries, an exceptionally swift process compared to the 72 days taken in his first term and the 63 days under the Biden administration. This rapid pace signals his intent to drive policies forward with strong momentum. Notably, Trump has prioritized appointing loyalists who staunchly support his core policies, such as tariffs and anti-immigration measures, maximizing the administration's policy execution capacity. Let's take a closer look at some of the key figures. Leading Trump's second-term immigration policy is Tom Homan, designated as the new border czar. Homan, who previously served as acting director of U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement under Trump, was a key architect of the administration's strict immigration policies. During his campaign, Trump pledged to carry out the largest deportation operation in U.S. history, and Homan has fully aligned with this vision, advocating for measures such as detaining families of undocumented immigrants together. On January 20th, his first day in office, President Trump signed an executive order launching mass deportations of undocumented immigrants, the largest in U.S. history. And with Trump's nominee for Secretary of Homeland Security, Kristi Noem, who is also a staunch advocate of strict immigration policies, border enforcement, and deportation efforts, are expected to intensify further.
Because together with Donald Trump, we are going to make America not just great, but greater than it has ever been before.
In the realm of foreign policy and national security, President Trump has nominated Marco Rubio as Secretary of State. A known China hawk, Rubio has consistently advocated for a hardline approach against the Chinese Communist Party. Interestingly, he was once a fierce rival of Trump in the 2016 Republican presidential primary. But in this election, he has pivoted to align with Trump's vision. Rubio has outlined the core principles of Trump's foreign policy for his second term, stating that the administration will focus on making America safer, stronger, and more prosperous. With Rubio and Trump working together, the world, including South Korea, is closely watching to see the potential synergies and implications for global diplomacy.
let me tell you, we have a new star. A star is born, Elon. Now he is. Now he's an amazing guy. We were sitting together tonight.
In President Donald Trump's second-term cabinet, Elon Musk has been appointed to lead the newly established Department of Government Efficiency. This agency, designed to enhance government efficiency, serves as a key innovation platform for the administration. Musk has pledged to integrate cutting-edge technology and innovative management practices to drastically reduce government spending.
all government spending is taxation. So whether it's direct taxation or all government spending, it either becomes inflation or it's direct taxation. Your money is being wasted, and the Department of Government Efficiency is going to fix that.
Musk was initially set to co-lead this department with Vivek Ramaswamy, a second-generation Indian-American entrepreneur who founded a successful biotech company. Ramaswamy has since departed from the role to pursue a gubernatorial bid in Ohio. But during his tenure, he proposed radical government reforms, including the elimination of the Department of Education and the Internal Revenue Service, aiming for a smaller federal government with a more private sector-driven approach. Musk introduced a corporate-style governance model, potentially marking a major shift in U.S. administrative structures. In President Donald Trump's economic team, two key figures are Scott Bessent, nominated for Treasury Secretary, and Howard Lutnick, nominated for Commerce Secretary.
I believe that President Trump has a generational opportunity to unleash a new economic golden age that will create more jobs, wealth, and prosperity for all Americans.
At 62, Bessent is the founder of Key Square Group and a veteran of Wall Street. He strongly supports Trump's aggressive tariff policies, viewing them as a means to protect domestic industries and create jobs. He has also proposed the 3-3-3 plan, which seeks to reduce budget deficit to 3% of the GDP, increasing U.S. oil production by an additional 3 million barrels per day, and sustaining 3% economic growth through deregulation. Howard Lutnick, nominated as Secretary of Commerce, is the CEO of Wall Street investment bank Cantor Fitzgerald and a strong supporter of President Trump's economic agenda, including tariff enforcement, cryptocurrency deregulation, and the elimination of income tax. Both Scott Bessent view tariffs primarily as negotiation tools rather than permanent revenue sources. This perspective has provided some relief to markets concerned about potential long-term trade barriers.
Another key aspect of Trump's second-term cabinet is the blend of youth and experience. Born on June 14, 1946, Trump took office as the oldest president in U.S. history. However, his cabinet includes a significant number of younger officials, such as J.D. Vance, the first U.S. vice president born in the 1980s, Secretary of Defense nominee Pete Hegseth, and Director of National Intelligence nominee Tulsi Gabbard, all in their 40s. Even the White House press secretary, Caroline Leavitt, is a former softball player born in 1997, 51 years younger than Trump. According to U.S. media outlet Axios, Trump's cabinet has an average age of 54.1 years, making it the youngest since the George H.W. Bush administration in 1989. Analysts suggest Trump's preference for younger aides stems from his intent to dismantle bureaucratic inefficiencies, cut regulations, and enhance government performance. Some also see this as an effort to ensure the longevity of his Make America Great Again, MAGA movement across future generations. With Trump's second-term cabinet now officially launched, a bold and reform-driven approach centered on loyalty is taking shape. As the administration focuses on executing key policies and incorporating fresh perspectives from younger leaders, it remains to be seen whether this cabinet will create the transformation Trump envisions for America and what impact it will have on the global stage. Yes, we have examined the key figures appointed to Trump's second-term cabinet and how they differ from his first term. Now we will analyze the key messages in President Trump's inaugural address to predict the changes over the next 4 years. Joining us in the studio is Dr. Lee Soo-hoon from the Korea Institute for Defense Analysis, specializing in U.S. foreign and security policy. Welcome, Dr. Lee.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Traditionally, President's inaugural speech emphasizes unity.
Certainly, we saw that the color choice for his tie, which was purple, right? It was a blend of Republican red and Democratic blue. But in his speech, he criticized policies from the previous government, such as economic policy and disaster relief capacity. So how do you assess his inaugural speech in general?
His inauguration speech actually reflected unity in overall. He mentioned every element of his society is there and also voted for him, from young and old, men and women, African American, Asian American, etc. It is true that during the campaign and during the election, he got more votes for Hispanic and Black than he did back in 2020 election. So I guess his overall inauguration speech may be reflecting unity in general, but we'll have to see inauguration day. So after his speech, he visited Capital One Arena, where thousands of his supporters were attending to see him. In that arena, in that speech, he criticized Biden in various ways. And after that, in his Oval Office, he signed executive order, which is about withdrawing from the Paris Climate Accord. So I guess in that sense, it wasn't really hard to see the unity in general, but political unity wasn't there.
Yeah, of course. So let's discuss his inaugural speech by issues. The first thing that he mentioned during his speech was obviously immigration, which was quite expected. He mentioned this very stringent policies, such as declaring emergency along the border region, sending troops there, and also initiating mass deportation, right? This extreme policy change may have some impact in American society as well as U.S. relations with neighboring countries.
Immigration was the top agenda during his campaign. It has been, and it was one of his top agendas during his first administration back in 2018. And in the inauguration speech, he mentioned he's going to declare a national emergency over the southern border, and is going to send troops to the southern border. The objective of this sending troops and declaring national emergency is to stop immigration from Mexico. In other words, stop having those illegal immigrants crossing the border. So that's going to be the main agenda for his second administration as well. So in that regard, he declared Alien Enemies Act, which was enacted, I believe, 1798, right? It was about pushing a charge against those spies, and it was invoked during World War I and II. So it is surprising that he's mentioning that again, and he's re-invoking that in 2025. So that actually shows his passion and his agenda-driven passion on this immigration policy. It's not going to be applied only on the U.S. southern border, but I guess it will also be applied to the northern border as well. What I mean by that is, during the campaign and after he was elected, he mentioned about imposing a tariff on both Canada and Mexico. The reason for that is, hey Canada, hey Mexico, if you want to lower your tariff, you will have to control your immigration over to the United States. So overall, his policy, what he's doing right after the immigration, is about controlling this immigration. And this is part of his America First credo, his foreign policy. And I think it will be strengthened down the road.
Well, certainly issue linkage can happen in other areas as well. And he also mentioned that the U.S. will build the most powerful army in the world. I think he actually meant it, although there are lots of legal and obstacles and resistance from the Congress. But how this vision shaped the U.S. defense policy, in your opinion?
I think Professor Kim, you know more than I do, and because we all are waiting for his Indo-Pacific strategy, national security strategy, national defense strategy to come out. Probably this end of this year or next year. By then, we'll be able to find out what his policies are on the military. But as far as I know and as far as I heard from the folks in Washington and read those news about Senate confirmation hearing about Pete Hegseth, Secretary of Defense, and so on, we know that it's going to be about efficiency. So recall DOGE, Department of Government Efficiency. I think this efficiency, this factor will be applied to all branches of government, including the Department of Defense. And of course, President Trump will try to strengthen his military over theaters, especially in the Indo-Pacific theater where China is located. But at the same time, he will try to seek more efficiency over this agenda as well. So we'll have to wait until this NSS and NDS to come out. But at the same time, we know that this DOGE, Department of Government Efficiency, will work as monitor or some kind of observer of this military growth.
And he and his supporters previously mentioned that the U.S. should stay away from regional conflict that does not align with the U.S. interest. So many argue that that can have some impact on the U.S. leadership globally. So what's your thoughts about this policy change?
It's about trying to win a war without a fight, which means we're expecting some kind of bloodless. We're not shedding blood in anywhere, but we're going to sustain this leadership or global hegemony without fighting the battlefield. I think that's some kind of policy embedded in this theory or concept of U.S. is not going to play a global policeman anymore. So that's sort of the trend or direction of President Trump's second administration. And I think that will definitely affect U.S. leadership in general. But we all know that U.S. is playing a different card, not only the military, but it's playing an economic card, imposing sanctions and so on. So I think Trump administration will try to hold its leadership, sustain its leadership based on its economic ability over the world.
Yes. I also believe that what the U.S. is trying to do is increasing deterrence capabilities. The purpose of the deterrence is to strengthen your capability in order to avoid any conflict with the other, right? So speaking of deterrence, he also mentioned that North Korea is a nuclear power. It was quite expected as well, but that such policy change can, bring about lots of concerns because, well, it's a direct challenge to the NPT treaty, and also it's can have some impact on the U.S. positions and UN positions on the illegal nuclear program in North Korea, right? So considering those resistance, do you think his vision for North Korea or his policy toward North Korea can be actually implemented in the long run?
So let me quote unquote the complete phrase. I remember, it's not an official, but he was in the Oval Office talking to the press, and one of the journalists asked him the question, what's your policy on DPRK? And I think his word was, he is a nuclear power. Here, he meaning Kim Jong-un.
Okay.
So after that, even among the experts, we're discussing what does he mean by that? Does he mean that like North Korea is a nuclear state? Because it really has massive effect on NPT as well. So we'll have to figure that out later on. But overall, President Trump, would he start the negotiation with DPRK on denuclearization? I think that's a question mark. Now, U.S., especially President Trump's negotiation with DPRK on its denuclearization can be done in twofold. First, in bilateral fashion. So back in Hanoi and Singapore, President Trump, in the end of the deal, he said no deal is better than the bad deal. So, which means he didn't get what he wanted from the deal negotiation. So, without a proper or enough discussion among the working level between DPRK and U.S., I don't see a possibility of the bilateral denuclearization talk between Trump and Kim Jong-un. But we'll have to also consider another factor where U.S. President Trump, in the process of working towards ending the Russian-Ukraine war what he said he's going to end in 24 hours. I think there is a North Korean variable there too. So he probably will, when in the process of ending this war in the negotiation, he may mention DPRK variable and how DPRK deploying troops in the Russian border may be a great threat to the international community and regional security. So in that sense, I think there is a possibility that DPRK variable may be handled in a fashion where President Trump getting involved in mitigating between Russia and Ukraine. And that will probably complicate U.S. strategic calculus in the region.
So do you mean during the negotiation phase over the ending of the Ukraine crisis, do you think the U.S. may reach out to North Korea to stop their support to Russia?
There are two ways, I think. President Trump can reach out to Kim Jong-un directly, or he can talk to President Putin to ask him to talk to Kim Jong-un, or force him to, or make him to stop sending troops to the Russian border. That card can be on the table when Trump and Putin really gets into this negotiation.
So depending on the scenario, the U.S. may or may not directly engage with the DPRK, right?
That's my guess, yeah.
Okay, right. Actually, President Trump interestingly mentioned William McKinley, and he also mentioned at the same time, regaining control over Panama Canal. Well, I don't believe that he actually meant to implement a policy of territorial expansion by coercion, which is obviously in violation of the international law. But we have some concerns because actually he said that, right? He hinted that. What do you think his underlying motive here?
Both Panama and Greenland, they're related to U.S.-China competition, obviously, right? So let's talk about Panama. Panama Canal, President Trump said it is controlled by China. But the product itself, Panama Canal, was the effort of the Americans. But now China is operating it, so we'll have to take this over. Greenland, China, I believe, was it 2018 when they executed Arctic strategy. He knows that. That was during his first term. So he believes that Arctic, Greenland, is a strategically important location. Therefore, both Panama and Greenland, he will try to acquire those two. And especially for the Greenland, it's not the first time he mentioned it. He mentioned it in his first term as well. So if you recall what happened in the Pacific Islands after China had opened the relations with Solomon Islands, then back then, a couple of years ago, this level of diplomatic interest in that region by U.S., Western Hemisphere, Japan, it had been, that location had been very hot in terms of political, international politics. So I think that's what's happening in Greenland and Panama. And realistically, I'm not sure how that is possible at this moment, but again, America First policy and how he is very much objective driven in terms of his leadership. We'll have to see what's going to really happen.
Yes, I think we are entering an era of uncertainty because
I believe so.
Yes, we have to keep observing how these initiatives that he mentioned during the inaugural speech can be implemented. I think that's all for today's discussion. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much for having me.
Finally, let's take a look together with me at the key moments of President Donald Trump's inauguration and the messages they convey. On January 20th, former President Joe Biden left the White House, receiving a farewell from now President Donald Trump. Earlier, former President Biden announced a large-scale pardon, which included his family and figures like Dr. Anthony Fauci, who had clashed with Trump. President Trump strongly condemned Biden's decision in a speech after the inauguration. Biden explained that the pardons were meant to protect against attacks driven by political motives. but there are concerns that such widespread pardons could set a troubling precedent and weaken public trust. After his inauguration on January 20th, President Donald Trump signed several executive orders, including the reversal of policies from the Biden administration in front of his supporters. One of these orders included a decision to pardon individuals convicted for their involvement in the January 6th Capitol riot of 2021. Trump's supporters may view the pardons as rectifying what they perceive as unjust prosecutions, but many lawmakers and citizens are concerned that such pardons could embolden extremist groups, increasing polarization and civil unrest. This move stands in contrast to the traditional inauguration message of unity and future vision, introducing a complex issue that challenges social cohesion in the United States. The meme coin Trump issued by President Donald Trump surged by a whopping 18,000% ahead of his inauguration. However, it plummeted after he made no mention of virtual assets in his inaugural speech. On the same day, Bitcoin also faced a decline due to disappointing sell-offs. There has been ongoing controversy, especially since the Trump Organization holds 80% of the Trump coin, reaping massive profits. This has raised significant ethical concerns and criticisms, with fears that the Trump-affiliated organizations could manipulate the market and that certain foreign entities could use this as a means to gain favor with Trump by transferring wealth to him. The inauguration of President Donald Trump signals a new shift in the international community and raises many questions for us. In this wave of change, we must pay attention to how the world will respond and what impact it will have on us. We will return next week with more insightful updates. Thank you for watching. This has been Jina Kim.